Those of you with a liberal arts background will no doubt be familiar with the age-old literary adage, fire bad.
Fire bad? I've never heard it put that way, but it does sum up millennia of human experience.
Indeed. Here is a public service announcement brought to you by Valemount's Wildfire Prevention and Protection Committee.
Cutting off branches like this and disposing of them appropriately will create less ladder fuel and therefore less fire hazard. This does not hurt the tree. In fact, the tree will grow much bushier when it has less branches to feed. So don't be afraid of pruning your trees to eye height. The important thing is not to allow the fire to travel from a low fire to a high fire. So, let's get going, guys. For horticultural reasons, you should try to cut right as close to the bark as possible, but not damage the bark, because the scar tissue will grow over the bump. But this is a completed tree, and it will definitely save the forest floor fire from climbing up.
You can see all around me there's branches and pieces of wood laying down, and it's very important that we do this cleanup that we do here, because this is very dry material, very easily flammable. Somebody could throw a cigarette butt in here and we'd have a problem right away. A lightning could hit one of these trees and this would be fuel for the fire. So that's why we got to clean up the fire. If we clean this stuff up and just leave the shavings of those sticks, we're going to have a fire about this high. A fire about this high is fairly easy to control with water. We can put that out. That's not a problem. If we get a pile like this, the flames are going to go right to the tops, and then we're going to have a crowning fire, and then we got a forest fire, which from here to the village of Valemount would probably cover that ground in 5 minutes or less. So this is why we're doing this today.
What's the surest way to tell you've got a tree that's been hit by the mountain pine beetle?
Is by looking for the pitch tubes and the boring dust. Pitch tubes and boring dust. And on that tree you can see some boring dust at the bottom of the tree. And here boring dust.
Just like sawdust.
Just like sawdust, and that's exactly pretty well what it is. And the other way, I don't have a knife, but you could peel the tree open, take the bark off, and you'll see the little pine beetle in it. They bore into the tree and then they make galleries and they lay their eggs. And then the adult dies and then the young fly out. They have exit holes. And what the bug does, it goes in and it eats the layer between the wood, say the cellulose, and the outer bark, and the inside is the phloem, and they eat that. And that kills the tree, it girdles the tree. And then the tree dies. The tree would start showing some flagging in the spring, and in the early summer of the following year will start turning red. And that's a sign that the tree is dead, and it's probably at its most flammable state, because the needles are all very dry, and as the fire flames get up, as you can see from these branches, would get up, crawl up the tree, and get into the crowns, and when they're red, they're just like explosive, and if these were all red up there, you would see how the crowns are all interwound, and with a little wind, it just goes from crown to crown, and the way it goes. That's the problem with it, and the intensities and the size of the fires get so big because they can cover so much ground in so short a period of time. Once you notice they're being hit, what you should do is plan for their removal. But once you're hit, the damage is pretty well done.
What about mistletoe makes it a problem for firefighters, for people for homeowners worried about fire?
It retards its growth and eventually kills the tree and turns it into a snag, which is bad for, which is, again, dries the tree out and makes it more flammable. And what the mistletoe does is it's a parasite. So it takes food and nutrients away from the tree and eventually slows its growth, and then eventually would kill it when it gets infested. Right in here, that's the mistletoe. And that is grows from a seed, or what that'll do now is that'll grow, goes through the process, it'll blossom, it'll get a seed, it'll pop the seed, squirt the seed out, the seed will land about 20 feet over, and it'll land on another branch, and then it'll start growing the mistletoe again on that tree. The only way to really get rid of the mistletoe is to cut the infected branches off the tree, and if you have a tree that's of mature height and that, you may have to remove the trees and then just keep cutting the mistletoe off the littler trees you want to keep. But you have to get rid of the mistletoe in order to stop the spread and get rid of it. If you have it in the mature trees, you're going to have to get rid of them.
One crucial element in fire safing your property is spacing. From the bottoms of these trees, they don't look like they would be a hazard, but when you look up towards the top, you can see the tops have grown together, therefore making it easier for the fire to spread from one tree to the other. Spacing for coniferous trees should be 2.5 to 3 meters apart. This is a good example of nicely spaced trees. There's lots of spacing between them, the tops are not touching.
So remember, if you're considering a spring cleanup of your yard, make sure to get rid of ladder fuels,
Clean up combustible debris,
remove pine beetle and mistletoe infested trees,
and ensure there is adequate space between trees.
remember,
Fire bad!